On that note, let's go to our second topic. And like Arizona, they missed their first week matchup against Utah because of some COVID positive tests. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if they come in prepared and ready to go. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, so the thing that kind of worries me here is that every team, no matter how good they really are, in the Pac-12 this year has struggled in week one. And we saw it from SC, right? They were down 27-14 going into, 5 minutes remaining in the entire game. And they were about to lose that game. It took some heroics and a little bit of luck there to steal that one. But coming out of the gate, they just looked, their timing was off. The defense didn't look prepared. The game plan just wasn't quite there. And they were vulnerable in that game, and I think that it was because they didn't have that time to prepare. They didn't have a week before that to sort of work out those kinks before playing one of the best teams in the Pac-12 South. I think Oregon was like tied with Stanford, or they're only like a touchdown ahead up going into just before halftime or something like that. So they didn't exactly come out playing the best game of their entire lives. We're just going to have to see. To me, it's couple the fact that it's their first game with the fact that they're playing probably, I would say, the best team in the Pac-12 South, with the fact that nobody really had, spring camp, fall camp. And I think Arizona especially, I might be getting this wrong, but I think they had a few starts and stops in the whole bringing the team back to campus to sort of get into the swing of fall camp as well. So, to me, it's just USC, I think, got unlucky with their schedule in that they were playing what I think is the second best team in the Pac-12 South in their first game. And that's why I was kind of eyeing that one as a game that they really had the potential to lose, even though I think that they are the better, more talented team than the Arizona State. And now that they've had that week to sort of realize what they need to work on, there are tons of adjustments to make. I think they're going to come out a much stronger team, independent of their opponent in week two. And obviously, the Wildcats haven't quite had that chance to, um, you know, work out some of those kinks and make those adjustments. And also, maybe the way it plays out is that they had a game against Utah that was just canceled, so now they're extra hyped to come out and play against the
Yeah,
Trojans. So we'll see. It could certainly go both ways.
yeah, I have heard that from the players, like talking and coaches, is that they're motivated even more that that game got canceled because how excited they were to get on the field after all the issues with Corona and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's just like any team that misses a week is just going to come in with an unfair advantage. I mean, like even when we look at like Utah, like we've talked about, like Utah, they missed their first 2 weeks. Like if they play next week, 2 weeks, like they haven't stepped on a football field, so like we don't know what to expect. We really don't because they haven't. There, you can practice as much as you want, but unless you're hitting and playing with that in game speed, then it's just different. And so we don't know what to expect here. I mean, yeah, Arizona. I mean, I expect the first few quarters to be rough for them. I mean, because I said from the beginning, like a few weeks ago before the season, that the first few games the first few games the Wildcats could struggle just because the most of the team is just different defense. The secondary's like shaken up, and I just think a new quarterback. I mean, just a lot of changes. I mean, it could be a rough start for the Wildcats.
Yeah, and mostly the entire coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball is new this year, and that presented challenges for the Trojans as well because they didn't have time to implement their new defense before the first week, and then they were thrown right into the fire against ASU, and that could be something that the Wildcats, struggle with this year as well. I think that the one thing that might be working in their favor is that Clay Helton said it a lot during practice this week, or during media availability this week, is that the USC offense doesn't really know what to expect from the Wildcats this game because it's a pretty much entirely new staff. They haven't played this year. They just don't know what they're going. I mean, you have four guys coming in from entirely different places, like the NFL, different colleges, different positions all over the country, and you don't know what they're going to bring. So I think if the Wildcats can come in with a plan, and SC has been saying all week that we're not going to try to worry too much about knowing the opposing defense, we're going to focus more on what we do well, which is obviously passing the football and having that balanced attack to allow the wide receivers and Keaton Slovis to thrive. But if the Wildcats come in with a game plan where they're and they know how to adjust to that, I think the game could be. Again, I still don't think that USC is going to lose this game. I think they would have to play a pretty horrendous game in order for that to happen. And Emil saying in the chat, I hope that they bring their A game. I'm not sure if we're talking about the Trojans or the Wildcats, but honestly, I don't even think the Trojans need to bring their A game to win this game. That might be kind of disrespectful on my part, but I think he also said in the chat that the Wildcats need to play a good game, which I think is true because the Trojans need that competition. What they did in the first week was not good enough. It just wasn't. They're not going to go out. That performance is not going to beat Oregon, right? It's not even going to produce a season that brings them anywhere close to the college football playoff, which is what the team's striving for. So they need Arizona to put up a fight, and I think that the defensive coaching staff and the defensive game plan, the fact that this team's just going to be hyped up to play, could present a challenge for them.
Yeah, and I think that the pressure is actually on USC because I think they have a lot of pressure this whole season because like they haven't got to that next level the last few years, and this year they have a good opportunity. And coming to Arizona, like they could teams like look over teams, and you can't do that in the Pac-12. Like this year, as we talked about, you need it like for a team like USC, they would have to win all their games like to even have a shot at the playoffs. So and they need to have some games that they dominate. I mean, I think this game, I think it could be closer than people think, and I mean we're gonna see. Like if USC just last week, like when people that are picking like teams to go to the college football playoff, like if they come out with that performance again and a few more times, like that, like no matter if they win or lose, like that just isn't a college football playoff type of team.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is something that USC needs to remind itself week in out this year, and that is they're not just going to be, making their case for the playoff against Oregon, against Utah, against Arizona State, right? They're going to be making their case in every single game. And if they come out slow against teams like Colorado, teams like Arizona, teams like UCLA, teams like Washington State, and they put up a performance like they did last week, and maybe they only win by, even if it's just 7 to 10 points, the AP voters are not going to look at that at the end of the season and be, a bunch of undefeated teams to a few one-loss teams and say, this is a team that really stands out. So in each and every single one of these games, USC has to make their case. And again, maybe the unpredictability of the Wildcats coaching staff and the new defensive game plan, whatever, maybe it presents challenges for them. Maybe they only win this thing by 7-10 points, and maybe that really slows them down at the end of the season.
Yeah, on that note,